Now, during the State of the Nation address, President Cyril Ramaphosa made a commitment to end child stunting by 2030 and tackle malnutrition among young children. For the past 7 years, Grow Great has warned that child stunting is not a marginal issue but a national crisis that begins long before a child turns 5. Now, to unpack this a bit more further, we are now joined by Grow Great Executive Director, Dr. Edzani Mphaphuli, and she joins us now via our video link. Dr. Mphaphuli, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time this evening here on SABC News. Maybe let's start off here firstly and get your reaction to that State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa, particularly dealing with malnutrition in children.
Good evening, Vali, and to your listeners. That is really a moment for South Africa and for the children of South Africa. This is something that we've been pushing for the past 7 years because it is really the one thing that can unlock the full potential of South Africans. What the condition of stunting does to children is that it steals their futures. So what it really means is that a child is not growing well, and most importantly, that their brain is not growing well. And we see this by a child who is too short when they are compared to other children of the same age. And the fact that the president for the first time has mentioned that it's something that we're going to tackle as a country. And he had been building up to this from the G20 Social Summit last year. We're really excited for the future of South Africa, because this is really, if we want to undo intergenerational cycles of poverty, we have to start by ending stunting, because it really levels the playing field for children in South Africa. It really means that children in South Africa will now have an equal biological start, an equal start in terms of their brain development, which is really, really exciting and critical.
Yeah, and Dr. Mphaphuli, I just want us maybe to unpack what is child stunting. I know that you touched on it a bit, but what is child stunting and what causes child stunting?
So child stunting is when you have two children, let's say two children who are 2 years old, you make them stand next to each other, and the one is very short compared to the other. So it's a child who is too short for their age. And the reason why this happens is because of two main things. The first one being nutrition. So for a child to grow, they have to grow outwards, so by gaining weight, and they also have to grow upwards by gaining height. To grow outwards by gaining weight, you don't really need special foods. Pap, porridge, magwinya, anything will make you grow outwards and gain weight. But to grow in height, you need nutritious foods. You need different foods, protein from meat, from milk, from eggs. You need vegetables, you need fruits. And that is what really builds then the muscles and the bones, and importantly, the brain, which is seen by a child growing tall. So stunting is when a child doesn't have the good nutritious food, but is eating enough food to live and survive. So when you look at a child who's stunted, they are just a normal child. They look usually chubby, but when you compare them to another child of the same age, they are shorter. And that tells us that their brain has not been developing well. And another key thing that contributes to that is the environment that they grow in. The children don't grow just from food, they also grow from love. So a child needs a loving environment to grow, and their brain, most importantly, needs a loving environment to grow, to be talked to be sang to be hugged, to be kissed, to be listened to when they cry, and for mothers to respond to the children when they cry. That is what builds also the brain. And really stunting is not just a condition of a child's height, but it's about what's happening in their brain. And because if a child is stunted, it means also their brain is falling behind. And we see this in all the research that we've done in South Africa, that children who are stunted don't do well at school. They fall behind their peers, they fail grades, and most of them end up not reaching matric, end up dropping out of school, and really, really struggle to learn, because we have done them a big disfavor in the first 1,000 days, which is the time from when a child is conceived in their mother's womb up until a child turns 2, because that's really, really the time where the brain is growing the fastest and the body is growing the fastest. So if we need to do any intervention, like the president mentioned, we need to start right there at the very beginning of life.
And what makes that very important, right? To focus on the first 1,000 days of a child's development, particularly because some may ignore these warning signs and think that, well, if my child is chubby, it seems as if they are on the right track and they are growing. But what makes this 1,000 days very crucial to a child's development?
It's incredibly crucial, and it is the time that starts from pregnancy up until the child turns 2, because that's when the brain is developing. At this time, the brain forms about 1 million connections every single second. So the brain, by the time a child reaches 2 years, finishes those first 1,000 days of life, it's almost done growing, it's almost done finished. The foundation of the brain is almost done developing. The foundations of all the other organs is also done, it's also almost done developing. So the pancreas, which is important for metabolism, which protects us from diseases like diabetes, is also forming at the time. And if these critical organs, especially the brain, don't form well because there is not enough food and there isn't love that the child is receiving, that's detrimental to that child's future forever. It means that that child is more likely to not succeed in life, like I said, fail at school, but also it means that they're more likely to get diseases like hypertension, diabetes, which add on to even the problem of not succeeding at school or falling behind or not being able to learn well and do well. From even when they start, even from research that we do in South Africa, children even at creche who are stunted are falling behind their peers. So it's really, really critical that those first 1,000 days are protected. And even if we look at any other data in South Africa around which children are dying from hunger. So the children that are dying from hunger are children between the ages of 0 and 2. If we look at around which children are stunted, the most number of children who are stunted are in those ages. So if we have really concentrated interventions in that age group, then we will really make a big dent in the problem of stunting. And I think the most important thing is if you take a child's height at 2 years, if you check that's the one thing that you can use to predict whether this child will be successful or not. So if a child is too short at 2, you're more likely to just be a very accurate sangoma and know that they will not succeed, which is why it's so important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mphaphuli. That's Dr. Edzani Mphaphuli. She is the Executive Director for Grow Great, talking to us there and reacting to President Cyril Ramaphosa's SONA address this week, highlighting issues around stunting and the prioritization of malnutrition.